A very warm welcome to the latest edition of the Asian Tour podcast. I'm Richard Kaufman, alongside Asian Tour player Scott Barr. We're going to look back at what was a very exciting finish at the Ballantines Championship, an equally strong finish as well at the first major of the year, the Masters. We'll look at the strength of the tour with some new events being announced and look ahead to what should be a fabulous week in Jakarta at the Indonesian Masters. But first, Scott, let's look back on that Ballantines Championship, a tournament which looked as if Brett Rumford had thrown away, but then grasped with that wonderful approach shot at the first playoff hole.
Oh yeah, it was a terrific finish to a magnificent tournament, Richard. The quality of golf was astounding all day, and it was definitely looking as though Brett Rumford was slipping up over the last couple of holes. He'd hit quite errant tee shots. But, you know, he bounced back and he showed true character to win that. And, you know, it was anyone's there over the last 15 minutes of play, and he was strong enough to stand up and take it.
He had a really good putt on 18 the first time around for a par after poor tee shots at 17 and 18 to just be in the playoff. And then, interestingly, he had a phone call with his coach, Pete Cowan, and he went back down to the first hole and hit 5 or 6 tee shots off there. And whatever Pete had told him seemed to put it right, because he had a bombing drive down 18 the second time of asking.
Yeah, I think I probably know what the problem with Brett's swing was. I actually, a few weeks ago in India, I had lunch with him, and we were looking at his swing on video, and his spine angle gets a little bit too forward as he hits the ball sometimes, and he loses control. So, actually, theoretically, that second shot that he hit into 18 was probably the shot of the tournament. Actually set up perfectly for him on a little upslope, helps him stay behind the ball, and it was just all in his favour.
And a really emotional reaction after talking about, how tough a time he'd not been playing well. He hadn't won since 2007, and he was even contemplating maybe, throwing it in. I know a lot of players say that and not necessarily mean it, but obviously he was feeling low, and being away from the family. He got the twins that are 18 months old. You know what that's like, Scott, isn't it? It's not easy to be travelling, not playing well, not earning as much money as you'd like, and being away from the family. Yeah,
I think he's a first-time parent, and they've got double the work. So I think Brett, he just had a lot on his plate and a lot of things that he had to deal with personally and mentally. So he's come out on top, and he's sort of shown what sort of golfer he is. So let's expect big things of him. This has moved him up into very close to the top 100 in the world with this victory, and I'm sure he's going to move forward from here.
When it was his wife's birthday on the Saturday, great way for him to celebrate that with the win on the Sunday, and this was his reaction to that victory.
It's been pretty hard, but golf-wise that is, and raising twins is it's not easy. But the last couple of years has been trying, and I can't talk. This is ridiculous.
So a great win for Brett Rumford. And Scott, just from you quickly, I mean, the Aussies at the moment, they just can't stop winning.
Well, I wouldn't say we can't stop winning, but obviously there's...
hold on, Scott Hend, then Wade Ormsby, then Adam Scott, wins the Masters, which we'll come on to in a bit, and now this.
Yeah, well, obviously the momentum shifted, and there's probably a belief thing amongst a lot of the players. Obviously Adam's win was massive in Australian golf and will be for years to come, and, Scott Hend played beautifully a week or so prior to that, and things are going in the right direction. I just want to get part of the action.
I was going to say, when's Scott Barr's time?
Yeah, well, not soon enough.
Okay, but it just shows a great week, wasn't it? A $2 million event, the Ballantines Championship, and the tour seems to be going from strength to strength. And the Resort World Manila have announced that they are going to sign up to a 5-year deal. There's going to be a new event in the Philippines, and Yangda have re-signed for another 3 years for their event in Chinese Taipei. So just good news all round.
Yeah, there's some good momentum building for the tour. It's been a hard couple of years, with the GFC and other bits and pieces. But, we're restructuring the organisation slowly, and things are coming together. So, obviously the corporate world can see the benefit in associating itself with the Asian Tour.
Okay, well, let's hear from the chairman of Yangda, happy to sign up for another 3 years. This is Emmett Shue.
When I first entered the Asian Tour contract 3 years ago, And during these 3 years, actually, our group, we learned a lot from Asian Tour, especially from all the staff. They taught us how to held a tournament. So it's very happy that we enter another 3 years.
And talking of Yang Scott, of course, a former champion of that tournament, Liu Wei-Chi, has been pretty ill recently, had a brain tumour, still in hospital, and of course we all wish him well.
Yeah, of course, all the players are always thinking about Liu Wei-Chi. He was a lovely character, and obviously he's a three-time winner on the Asian Tour, had a lot of respect amongst the players, so we do wish him and his family very well.
Of course, one of the Chinese Taipei players who supported by Yang De has chalked off another win, a sixth victory in his career for Lin Wentang, having won the event in the Philippines, the Soler Open. Great to see Lin Wentang back in the winner's circle, isn't it, Scott? And just shows there's such a cosmopolitan feel, isn't there, to the Asian Tour?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty dynamic field. We usually have between 20 and 30 nationalities represented each week. And it is good to see Lin Wentang back in the winner's circle. You know, he was... He's played the Masters before. He's won the Hong Kong Open. You know, he beat Rory McIlroy back there a few years ago in the Hong Kong Open. And, you know, he just went off the radar a little. I think might have had some other things to do, but it's great to have him back where he belongs.
Yeah, and just another note to mention as well, a great victory for Yoshi Tsukada on the Japanese Tour. He's one of our Q School graduates for 2013. So that's the news as a whole from the Asian Tour. But before we look ahead to the Indonesia Masters, the CIMB Niaga Indonesia Masters that's coming up this week, the first major of the year, and of course we had a great playoff at the Ballantines Championship, but I don't think anything ever this season is going to beat the playoff that we saw at the Masters. And as an Australian, we touched on it before, it must have been a proud moment for yourself, Scott.
Oh, it definitely was. And much like the Ballantines, there was 3 or 4 Australians, or 3 Australians in contention at the Masters, with 2 or 3 holes to play. And I think the whole world saw the emotion that Adam Scott had when he'd holed a putt, which he had thought to win the tournament. And, what he was saying was, come on, Aussie. I think we all read his lips, and the crowd, there was Australians in the crowd, really pulling for him. And even his countryman, Mark Leishman, I've seen some great photos after the tournament.
Yeah.
I've really, it wasn't his time, but Australian golf needed something like that to really boost it. And, Adam Scott's been the number 1 Australian for some time, so it's probably fitting that he won such a prestigious event.
What about Angel Cabrera, though? I mean, it was... He played every part, didn't he, in what happened over those final half a dozen holes. Maybe could have won it. His putt at 17 looked as if it was in, didn't go in. Then, as you say, Adam Scott rolls that putt in at 18. And for him to respond with an approach shot like that himself, and then the spirit and the camaraderie in the playoff itself, it was terrific for the game of golf.
Oh, it was terrific for the game of golf. I think... Cabrera put everything out to win that golf tournament. I think he knew on the last hole he had to go for broke. And he's a player that plays with a lot of flair and a lot of confidence. And when he's on, he's going to, obviously he can beat anyone. And so that shot on the last there in regulation play probably had every Australian's, everyone had swallowed their words. We thought we were going to get done by again, as Greg Norman has been a couple of times. But Adam stepped up, and as it turns out, he was lucky enough to win. So, and I think, Angel's sort of sportsmanship at the end of that was very notable.
Another win for the belly putters, but there's no doubt Adam Scott, a very popular champion. Let's hear what Louis Oosthuizen, of course, a runner-up at last year's Masters.
I mean, it was great, playing with Adam at Tuesday and Wednesday practice round, and speaking to Ernie that we was playing with as well, and just how good Adam was striking it and how good he's playing. And, then another playoff, and Angel did so much by making birdie on 18 to get in the playoff. And then both of them had 2 great holes. And, hats off to him to come back after what happened to him with the Open. That's just hats off, great stuff.
Yeah, very popular win for Adam Scott. Terrific victory. But, of course, with the belly putt, he could have won the Open Championship at Royal Lytham and St Anne's back in July, pipped by his good friend Ernie Els, who, of course, won with the belly putter as well. We've now had champions at all 4 of the majors Scotty, with the belly putter. Where do you stand on this?
Oh, look, I'm probably going to let the powers that be sort that one out. I have used a belly putter over the years, and, currently I'm using the short putter. And, I think the R&A and the USGA have, they've opened a bit of a can of worms, and I think I'm probably going to just sit back on this one and let it unfold.
You're getting splinters from sitting on that fence, aren't you?
I am on this occasion. I mean, there's quite a few mixed emotions running through the players. So, on this one, I'm just going to let it.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that the PGA Tour have come against it. Of course, Ernie Els, who's going to be playing in the Indonesian Masters this week, has had great success with the belly putter. I think he's going back to the short putter. We may see that in Jakarta this week. But this is what he has to say on the matter.
Well, it's a little tricky now. I think, the US Tour came out and said to the world where they stand on that issue. Whether that's right or whether that's wrong, we don't know. But at least the Tour came out and supporting the players. They had some players' meetings and so forth. And obviously a lot of the players were against the ban, or with the ban is now against the ban. So a lot of people's minds have been changed, in a short period of time. So the Tour felt that the majority of the players didn't want it to be banned. So they took that stand. And then the European Tour is against it, the R&A and the USGA. So it's a little bit up in the air now. It'll be quite tricky, if the US Tour stays where they are and the rest of the world goes against it. Then we'll have to see what happens after that.
So one of the big talking points, apart from Adam Scott winning in the belly putter, was Rule 33.7. Tiger Woods, of course, going in the water at 15 on day 2, signing for a bogey 6, when really it should have been a double bogey or triple bogey 8 because of his mix-up of the rules. Before we get your opinion on what happened, Scott, let's get the view first from Louis Oosthuizen.
It was a tough one, I think, at the stage. Obviously he didn't do what he did on purpose. He just got the rules a bit mixed up by where he could drop it, and thought that he could drop it in line back, just 2 yards further back. And, I think on that basis, the only rule was a disqualification because he signed for the wrong score. And to me, they just misinterpreted the other rule by saying they could put the 2 shots afterwards. That's something, to me, that rule's completely, it's a good rule, but it's for a completely different purpose.
Interesting comments there from Louis. Obviously feels that Tiger should have been disqualified. What about yourself?
Well, I think obviously Tiger was in breach of the rules, and he'd signed his scorecard. Now, theoretically, that probably would mean disqualification. However, you can't go above the rules committee that are in place, and I think the rules committee have seen some sort of oversight in the way that they've directed the situation through the day, and the 2-shot penalty has stood. So, I think Tiger's great for the golf tournament, and I'm going to back the rules committee on this one. I think they've made the decision, so Tiger's well within his rights to keep playing, and the whole thing's a bit unfortunate. Had Tiger actually hold the shot, he may well have won the tournament, and now we're talking about him disqualifying, but that's golf. So I'm with the rules committee on this one. I'm Tiger's just doing as he's told.
Yeah, no, listen, I don't want to see a player disqualified, Scott, but I was there in Abu Dhabi which was the reason for this rule change, when Padraig Harrington was disqualified in the Abu Dhabi Championship, and what happened was a TV viewer saw his ball move when he was marking it. Now, Padraig hadn't seen his ball move, but the ball did move when they looked back on TV evidence. It wasn't able to be seen with the naked eye, and as a result, they thought, well, he signed for the wrong scorecard. He didn't know that he'd done anything wrong, and we didn't know he did anything wrong until someone rang up. And to try and avoid that kind of scenario again, that's why this Rule 33.7 came into place. But I think, as Louis Oosthuizen's pointing out, it wasn't for a mix-up of the rules, which is what Tiger's done. So, I don't know. I feel a little bit uneasy with it personally, but I can see your point of view. I can see what the Masters Committee came to, but I feel they maybe just got it a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be talk about this in years to come. But I'm going to run with my decision. I think I know Tiger didn't break the rule intentionally.
Sure,
and it was absolutely an oversight. But in hindsight, in years gone by, he definitely would have been disqualified, even if he was on the course mid-round the next day and they discovered this out. He would have been disqualified the next day. But that's why that rule's there, and it keeps the game flowing and sometimes it keeps the great players in there.
Yeah. Well, and of course, it wasn't Tigers Week. In some way, one of the big stories of the week was Guan Tianlang, who also got a bit of a penalty, one for slow play. But on a more positive note, Scott, I mean, how incredible that at the age of 14, he made the cut at the Masters. I mean, I don't know what you were doing at 14, but that's incredible.
I think it's phenomenal. And, obviously golf is appealing to the younger brigade, and they're just getting better and better. And when this guy gets stronger and fitter, and who knows where the sky's the limit for this young man. And so I was quite happy to see that he did so well. I think everyone was astounded that he did so well. But and it's probably full credit to the Masters Committee for actually finding a player of that capability at such an age and introducing him into such a tournament. The Masters Committee and the R&A have held a tournament to identify the best Asian players, amateurs, and they've all made the cut since they've been introduced into the Masters. Yeah,
fantastic performance from Guan Tianlang. Let's get the reaction to his display from Louis Oosthuizen.
We just had a 14-year-old making the cut at Augusta, beating me. So it's great to see, and it was really unbelievable to see someone that young and playing that well around the golf course like that. I think he had everyone talking the whole week about not being a long hitter, 14 years old, but unbelievable short game. And around Augusta, if you're not a long hitter, you can struggle sometimes. Your short game's got to be spot on, and he just showed that. He had the patience and the golf of some touring pros.
So on to this week and the CIMB Niaga Indonesia Masters. It's in its third year, played once again at the Royal Jakarta golf course. So how much are you looking forward yourself to playing it, Scott? Because it's a bit of a milestone for you this week.
Well, it is. It's going to be my 200th event, Richard, as has been pointed out to me a couple of times on the Asian Tour. So yeah, it's a bit of a milestone. It's certainly a golf course that I enjoy playing. It's a beautifully presented golf course. Suits my eye. The bunkering's nice. The fairways are pristine, as are the greens. So, I always look forward to it. The Jakarta's a magnificent city, full of culture. And as far as the golf and the practice facilities at the golf course are, it's fantastic, first rate.
And you're doing some charitable work, are you, as well?
Well, I support a charity now. I support a charity called Quality Time. And, I'm sure for the viewers or the listeners, you can see more about it if you watch the Asian Tour telecast. But basically, I wear various coloured watches, and proceeds from the sale of these watches go to charitable foundations, namely the Singapore Cancer Foundation initially, and then hopefully further on down the field it'll be a global charity.
Fantastic. And what a great field again. 4 major winners, Ernie Els, Darren Clark, Michael Campbell and John Daly, and the best from the Asian Tour, of course, Tong Chai and Tarwan, to name a few. So it's going to be a real quality event on a terrific golf course. Going to have a new champion, of course, no Lee Westwood, who's won it the last 2 years. But if it's not you, Scott, and I'm saying it could be, who then? Who could pick up the trophy?
Look, I think the Australians are on a run, and I'd actually have to say this golf course in particular, would probably suit Scott Hend. It's very similar to Chiang Mai. He's a long hitter. The par fives are going to be reachable for him when they're not really reachable for anyone else in the field. But, obviously Tong Chai is going to be as hard as always to beat. But I think Hendy might have the upper hand here. He's playing well, so watch out.
Yeah, that's a good tip there from Scott Barr. Thanks very much for your contribution, Scott. Of course, if you want to know what's happening at the CIMB Niaga Indonesia Masters, you can keep right up to date on the website asiantour.com, or go to our Twitter handle, which is @AsianTourGolf, or just say hello to us on the Facebook page. But that's all for this week from the Asian Tour podcast from Scott Barr and myself, Richard Kaufman. We'll catch up again with you soon.